Hey everyone, welcome back to Hero Wars Guide. In this video I'm going to talk about the rewards that you get, the tasks that you have to complete to get them. I'll make some guesses about the bundles that will probably be coming, and also go over the shop. Okay, so all of the rewards in the event are going to be either the Summer Festival coin, which you can spend at the shop for some pretty big prizes, or honey, which is a random selection of a few other prizes, which might include the Summer Festival coin. Obviously, every time you open up honey, you're hoping for the coin. It's by far more valuable than the other prizes. I've seen some pretty convincing screenshots from the game data that suggest that the Summer Festival coin comes about 10% of the time, and there is some bad luck protection that may cause it to be a little bit higher for you at the beginning of the event, but then over time, after 3 bad luck protections fairly early on, it should even out to about 10%. Okay, so just starting out here with a quick list of the tasks that you have to complete. You've got special event quests, which just means completing the milestones in all of the other tasks. Log in, VIP, spend energy, spend emeralds, Outland chest, getting 1,000 hero souls, and completing some fights in arena or grand arena. So what you see here on the screen is a list of all those things and what it costs in emeralds to complete them, and what amount of emerald value of rewards do you get for finishing each one of these tasks. And you can see here there's a section for 7 days, or if you're getting an 8th day out of the event, what's the ROI for each one of those. And you can see a pretty big uptick for Outland, specifically if you do get an extra day out of that one. Okay, so starting first with the completing tasks of the special event. This one is going to be important to keep in mind as I talk through all of the others, because you can only get the rewards here from completing most of the milestones in the other tasks. And when I'm talking about the value from spending emeralds or spending energy, etc., that's only going to be focusing on the emeralds that you get specifically for that task, or the emerald value. You actually get, of course, the honey, which may lead to other things. But anyway, the amount that you get from this will, eventually drive up the ultimate value that comes out of spending emeralds, spending energy, getting those hero sets, etc. But what you can see here from this progression on this task is the value is overwhelmingly concentrated at the end of the series, and that is going to be the case for pretty much every task in the event, and it's really the main drawback to Summerfest, which is otherwise a great event. But you'll see that since the value is so strongly concentrated at the completion of all of these chains, I think it will most of the time not make sense to really go part way into this event. You either want to max these things out, or it's not really going to be an event that's worth the bang for the buck. You don't want to go halfway through all of these chains and not collect the summer coin that comes at the end. And it's that summer coin that drives up the value so drastically. All of these milestones you see here, 5, 10, 15 special events completed, you get a little bit of honey, not all that much even, so the value is much, much less. And you can see the final column here is just a quick note on what it takes to achieve each one of these things. Not each of them, but a few of them. The 48.4 is a call out because you can complete that level of the event as a free-to-play player, spending no emeralds or anything else, and only getting 100 hero souls along the way. So that's kind of like the absolute floor. If you're playing every day, you should definitely get at least that. But you can see that the value for getting that far is not very high. And then, conversely, if you look at the final reward tier, I put in a note for what you need to do, the cheapest way at least, to get there, which is to finish Outland up to 145 openings and spend up to the 15,000 emerald tier, of which Outland is going to be 12,000 for you. And then you have to finish everything else, all the arena fights, get the 1,000 hero souls, etc. Obviously, you can get to that same milestone through some other combinations of the rewards, but that's my view of the minimum path to get to the end of this one. I think if you're not going to be able to hit that last milestone here, then you shouldn't spend a ton on the Outland task, and probably the same thing for the Energy. If you're not going to finish that one out, you're not going to want to push that to, if you need 8,000 total, you're not going to want to get up to the 12,000 milestone, because it's just not really giving you all that much except for the last couple of tiers. All right, so let's take a look at some of the others. First, measuring this event against a few of the other common events that we see for a couple of specific tasks. You're seeing here Outland chests is the cluster on the left and spending emeralds on the right. Summer Festival is the orange bar on the far right of each one of those sections. And you can see here, this is for completing the task completely. And Summer Festival really isn't the highest reward just by itself. You can get more out of these tasks in some other events. But that, completing tasks of the special event can help move things up. That orange bar, that's about 40 for spending emeralds for Summer Festival, does move up to 60 if you, give all of the credit of the special events to spending emeralds. So, it can be a little deceiving. The value is a little bit higher here, but again, that's only for completely maxing out these event chains. And we can take a look at the individual milestones a little bit later. And then again here, this is looking at the emerald value that you get for each hero soul that you spend or that you retrieve within the game. And you can see that Summer Festival is actually less than pretty much every other major recurring event out there. I do have Guardians of Outland in the mix, which I've recently heard is not going to be in the rotation moving forward, which is sad because it's one of the best events in the cycle. But we might not see that one again. But anyway, this I think gets back to the point again that if you're not going to get that completing the quests of the special event task completely maxed out, then I don't think this is really a big focus for getting all the hero souls here either. You'd be better off, unless you max out all these other events as well, then fine, go ahead and complete this one. But if you're only getting these hero souls out of this event, in my opinion, you're actually better off doing it in a few other places. All right, taking a look at the milestone breakdowns within the Spend Emerald task. And you can see here these bars represent the value of the reward for each one of those milestones as a percentage of what you have to spend to get there. So the first several are really great returns, and then you see this giant drop down in the middle. And different events have different looking curves here. A lot of them are really strong at the beginning and then steadily drop off. Some of them follow this pattern where it drops down in the middle and then kicks back up at the end. Some of them do progress upwards, but this here I think is a great illustration of the point that if you're not going to max this thing out, it's extremely low return. This is much worse than a lot of other events for example, if you were to go up to 35,000 emeralds spent, that 20% return mark is much worse than most events. Maybe not the weekday soul stones or something, but the other recurring events are actually going to be a better place to spend. Now, if you get all the way up to 65K, then it's great, but anywhere between 25 and 45 is kind of a dud, in my opinion. Same idea here, looking at the energy. This is if you're spending emeralds to get that energy. If you have massive stockpiles in the mail, then this won't apply specifically, but if you're buying the 50, 150, or 50, 100, 150 energy packs, buying some bottled energy, the next level of spend for 300 emeralds for 200 energy, this is what the ROI that you would get based on those spends. And again, you can see this enormous tower at the end at the 18,000 mark, but very low returns for all the way from 6,000 to 15,000. This again, somewhere between 30 and 40% return for those middle of the road milestones is much worse than most other events out there. Even when you factor in the 18,000 big reward at the end, it's still worse than a lot of other events, in my opinion, for the spend energy, other than what you maybe are going to get out of that completing tasks of the special event. But again, main point here, don't get up to 10, 12, 15,000. Either stop much earlier or go all the way up to 18,000. And here you can see a little more detail on each one of those milestones. So all the numbers we had represented in that graph below, but this gives you your guidelines for how much you're going to need to spend each day to hit each branch of this. So you can see that you have to not only buy all of the 150 every day, but then purchase a number of bottled energy or have those on your backlog and open those up to get to some of these bigger targets. And again, summer coin at the end for that 18,000 mark. That's why the emerald value there is so much higher than the little bits of honey you get along the way. All right, same idea here, looking at the Outland chest task. This one stays a little bit more even, but again, there is a big payout at the end. And the reason you don't have that spike for the final piece here is because while there is a much bigger payout for 165, you get the summer coin here as well, but the spend to get there is quite a bit higher since you're opening up more and more expensive chests in order to get there. And here again, same idea, how much of each type of chest you have to open each day to hit each marker. And as you can see that with that final piece, like I said, you have to open up all of the chests for the 200 emeralds, and then also open up a few, and that's every day, and then also open a couple sets of the 4500s to hit the final milestone. All right, and then last one, I believe, broken down like this is the Hero Soul Stones. This one is not looking at an Emerald ROI because it's so much harder for Hero Souls to really determine what was the cost to get a certain number of souls. Usually these things are coming from, you know, the calendar soulstone chests or shop coins or too many different sources to really measure up the cost in terms of an emerald expenditure. But the way that I've broken this down is just how much reward do you get for each soul that you receive. And you can see here again, the 1,000 is all of, not all, but an overwhelmingly large portion of the value. So if you're not getting all the way up to 1,000 on this one, it's much less valuable than any other event that requires you to open soul stones. Every other event out there is going to stop at 600 or less, and the payoff is much, much higher on average. And of course, at those 500 and 600 milestones will be the big ones for those other events. So again, you know, if you're picking and choosing what event to spend on, don't get up to like somewhere between 600 and 900 here. It's just a really poor payout. All right, a few notes here on the bundle. I'm not 100% sure that it'll be the same as it was in prior years. I don't believe the bundle information is in the data files, or at least I don't know where to look for it if it is. But it's probably the same as what we saw in Spooky Festival. And the rest of this slide here covers what was provided in that event. And you can see, I'm not going to read through every single one of these, but the main takeaway here is the bundles 3 through 5 are actually a pretty good value in terms of how these event bundles go. They're usually considerably worse than 4X. In this case, they're about the same. And if you are a lower VIP account, then it may actually be a better payout to buy one of these larger bundles than 4X, just because you're not going to get the same emeralds per dollar that a higher VIP account would. So in those cases, you know, this may be one of the best places to spend if you're going to spend. All right, and then here's a list of the items that you can get out of the shop. And you know, really, I would say that you're best off getting the skin stones or the chaos particles out of the shop. But this one here, I've listed the emerald values for each one of the items, so that if you do decide you want to spend your Summerfest coins on those, you can see the emerald values here. Again, my top recommendations are skin stones and chaos particles, but following those, I think items are the best. You absolutely don't want to get any of the pet gems, like the flawless crystals or whatever. That is an absolutely horrible return. It's like less than a fifth, I think, as valuable as any of the other rewards out there. So definitely, under any circumstances, don't buy that. The Hero Soul, in my opinion, is also much less valuable. Maybe best case, it's half as valuable if you convert it all to shop coins and buy stuff there. Really, the only circumstance that I would ever recommend buying the Hero Soul is if you're at 900. Buying this chest of 100 Hero Souls would get you that extra 100 up to the 1,000, so you can get a summer coin right back. That's really the only way that would ever make sense. But again, if you do want to buy one of the items, here's your list. You can see that some are worth quite a bit more emeralds per summer coin than others. But part of what the next level of depth that you may want to consider if you're buying these things is what are the individual components that make up each of these items, and how much energy does it take to get them, how many other useful fragments come from those same missions. And if you're looking at things like that, I think you're likely to conclude that the Piercing Gaze is one of the better ones, even though it's not a super high emerald per summer coin value. Every fragment in there is going to be on your critical path if you have a decent amount of mage heroes, and half of the heroes in the game are mages. That's probably going to be the case for a lot of people. The Creative Worlds, Demigod's Wreath, Vanquished Absolute, all pretty good as well. Ace in the Hole is very likely to be very poor in that regard for most people, just because those fragments come from the same mission as other things that you're going to need 6 times as many of. So like most of what you get from most of the fragments that make up the Ace in the Hole, I think you're going to get for free, as you have to raid other more in-demand fragments. So I avoid that one. But anyway, I hope this gives you something to think about there. Alright, I think that covers everything I had here. There will be a mini game, but I don't have any early information on how to find that, other than you do have to complete the prior year mini games before the new one will likely be unlocked. But I just can't point you to the direction of the new one until the actual event kicks in. Alright, any questions or comments, please leave them in the video below. Thanks.